Okay, so what you're about to hear is a true story. Now, we've had to change the names to protect the innocent and, well, the guilty, but every detail is very, very real. It's a homeowner's journey right through the middle of an AC disaster that ends up with a solution you might not see coming.
So let's meet our homeowner. We're going to call her Jill. Picture this. She's stuck in the middle of a brutal Florida summer, and her air conditioner is on its last legs. The house is hot, it's humid, it's just plain miserable. I mean, if you've ever had your AC quit on you during a heat wave, you know exactly this feeling of desperation.
So, in her desperation, Jill calls a guy who promises a cheap fix. For the sake of our story, we're calling him Schmuck. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll see exactly why that name fits perfectly.
So Schmuck shows up, slaps a temporary patch on the system, and pockets a few $100 for his trouble. Then he leaves Jill with this little gem of advice. Just try to limp through the summer and buy a whole new system in the fall, because, he claims, prices will drop.
Right. Let's just be crystal clear about this. That's not how it works. At all. Reputable, professional HVAC companies do not change their equipment pricing based on the season. That's a total myth. It's an immediate, giant red flag that you're not dealing with someone who's on the level. So Jill tries to get by with this so-called fix. But just a few days later, the situation goes from bad to, well, to just plain weird and dangerous. The outdoor unit, the compressor, starts to violently shake and vibrate. And I'm not kidding, this got serious. The unit was vibrating so hard it was literally sliding itself right off its concrete pad. It was about to be just hanging there by its own electrical wires and refrigerant lines. This isn't just a breakdown, folks. This is a genuinely hazardous mechanical failure. So of course, Jill calls Schmuck again. He does another patch but finally has to admit, yeah, you're gonna need a new system. And this is the real turning point, This is where Jill starts to question if this cheap route is really going to be cheap in the long run. Thankfully, a friend of hers is like, whoa, hold on, you need to get a second opinion. And boy, was she right. The red flags just started popping up everywhere. First, Schmuck had quoted this massive 4-ton unit for her house. Then when Jill asked about tax credits, he flat out told her they weren't real. And he never once mentioned how this giant new system was supposed to work with the ductwork she already had. And about that tax credit he said wasn't real? Yeah, there is very much a real federal heat pump tax credit. We're talking up to $2,000 thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act. So to deny it even exists is either profound ignorance or he was just outright lying. But here's the real kicker. Jill calls 3 different, and I mean licensed professional HVAC companies, and every single one told her the exact same thing. A 4-ton unit was way, way too big for her house. It's kind of like trying to force water from a fire hose through a little garden hose. The pressure would be insane and would absolutely destroy the new system and her ducts. And this is where the whole story kind of pivots. It stops being about a technical problem with a machine, and it becomes a really personal thing for Joe. She starts thinking beyond just her broken AC, and about how her home is actually felt to live in for years. And bam! She has this huge aha moment. She realized, she always kept the thermostat cranked down to 72 degrees, but she was never really comfortable. The air always felt damp or sticky, clammy. Some rooms were freezing, others were hot. The number on the wall just didn't match the feeling in the house. And here's why that happens. Her old single-stage air conditioner was designed to do one thing: blast cold air until it hits a target temperature, then shut right off. The problem is, it cools the air so fast it doesn't run long enough to pull the humidity out of the air. And that's what creates that gross, cold, wet air that is the #1 cause of thermostat battles in Florida homes. She was just living with these jarring blasts of cold, damp air. What she really needed was a system that could provide slow, steady, truly balanced comfort by managing both the temperature and the humidity. And that's when one of the professional companies she consulted introduced her to a completely different kind of technology. And it was the perfect answer to her problem, a real game changer. She learned all about a Trane variable speed heat pump. Instead of just being on or off, this system works more like the cruise control in your car. It runs continuously at a very low, steady speed, making hundreds of tiny adjustments all day to keep both the temperature and the humidity perfectly balanced. So goodbye cold, wet air. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. This premium technology sounds expensive. And yeah, upfront, it costs more than Schmuck's quote. But when Jill actually sat down and did the math, the choice became unbelievably clear.
First off, the new system is incredibly efficient. We're talking about estimated electricity savings of around $100 every single month. See, it's constantly just sipping energy instead of guzzling it down in these short, powerful bursts.
So let's look at the 5-year math, which is a pretty typical financing term. $100 a month in savings over 60 months, that's $6,000. You add that very real $2,000 federal tax credit, that's $8,000 in total value. And suddenly, the cost of this superior premium system was right in line with the oversized, dangerous unit Schmuck was pushing. So in the end, Jill got a system that was safer, way quieter, and dramatically more efficient. Her home was finally truly comfortable. She even told us that her family, who used to complain about her freezing guest room, now actually enjoys visiting. And that really brings us to the whole point of Jill's story. It's a question worth asking yourself. When you walk through your own home, does it feel genuinely comfortable, or is it just cold? Because as Jill learned, that difference is everything.